We're going to talk about some crazy Scientology secrets exposed in court and at some of these protests. Relatable Reese is celebrating 1 year, and Tom Cruise is up to some strange things, but maybe not. We're going to talk about it because I have mixed feelings. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about Scientology and cults. And there's so much to talk about today. Big welcome to everybody in the chat. Hello to the members. Thank you so much for being here. And a huge thank you to the moderators who help us keep the wheels on the bus as things go along here. All right, everybody, we got a lot to talk about. So if you have a question, if you could put question before your question and have your question follow, I'll try to get to as many of those as we can because, so many hot topics and things to talk about. I can hardly stand it, seriously. First, let's start off with, of course, we have to, the Tom Cruise news about the Olympics. Tom Cruise is at the Olympics. He's been attending different events. Well, now, there is talk that Tom Cruise is planning a stadium stunt to play starring role at the Paris closing ceremony. Reports say Tom Cruise is planning a scene stealer for the Paris Olympics closing ceremony. TMZ reported on Tuesday. Well, there you go, right? TMZ reported it. Might be true. Maybe it's true. We shall see. The 60-year-old action star is expected to rappel from the top of, is it Stade or Stade de France, carrying the Olympic flag? Sources with direct knowledge told the showbiz outlet. That will segue into a pre-recorded segment of him skydiving with the flag down the Hollywood sign to trumpet Los Angeles' role as the host of the 2028 Summer Games. The short movie will also feature Cruise, a big Olympics fan who cheered on Simone Biles at the games, handing off the flag to other athletes in the next host city. Link down below to this article and all the videos we're going to be talking about so you can read the whole thing, watch the videos, and all the good things. Okay, let's talk about this. Everybody in the chat, want to hear from you. Catching this on the replay, tell me in the comments. I don't hate this. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. It just sounds kind of cool. I got to be honest. I got to tell you, I wanted to hate it because it's Tom Cruise, right? And Scientology and everything he represents with Scientology. But I don't know. I think I'm just torn. Look at me. I feel guilty telling you guys that I kind of like this, but I do. There it is. It's out. Okay. I'm not opposed to this. I kind of want to see it. It does sound a little cool. I don't know. You guys tell me. Afila, you hate it? Okay, you hate it. Dempsey says it's a little weird. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm so torn about it. I just can't decide. But I think I know. I don't hate it. Yeah. Okay, me and Taz says, I can do without this happening. TC again, so effing boring. Get over it. Okay, we will move on, but I still think it's interesting. Let's see, though. Let's see what really happens. Okay, the other day, I did a video with Jenna MISCAVIGE, and she dropped some bombs about the Minkoff family. We're going to take a look at the clip. If you've not seen this video, go ahead and check it out because, I'm going to share the clip and then we'll talk about it. Then it will all come together. Check this out.
Just what she said at the end there is like, if you leave, you lose everyone you ever knew your whole life.
Now, Jenna's talking about, I had showed her a clip from a podcast that Rebecca Minkoff, Scientologist, handbag designer, clothing, she does all the things. She had a friend, Lori Harder, who you guys might know from the fitness world. Lori Harder has a book. She's an author. She's a speaker. She also grew up in a cult. And Lori went on Rebecca's podcast and talked about her cult experience growing up and leaving. And I played this for Jenna and she reacted to it because Jenna MISCAVIGE has ties to the Minkoff family, which she really gets into later in the video. So check the whole thing out. But here is this clip.
I mean, how can you not think of that if you're Rebecca Minkoff, a Scientologist who's been a Scientologist her whole life, especially since she was a little kid. I mean, I knew the Minkoffs when I was on course at Flag. She's a bit older than me, but her brothers were on Heat of Life with me, and she would come in. They would call her Becky, And yeah, it's just how can you hear that statement and not think, wait, that sounds
Yeah.
a lot like Scientology.
Yep, it did. Lori Harder, when she was on our podcast and we highlighted that clip a couple days ago, it just really sounded like you could take what Lori Harder's experience was in her cult and put Scientology in there. Losing everyone, leaving, the black and white thinking, so much of it. So, which made me wonder, is Rebecca Minkoff just totally oblivious to this and not connecting the dots, kind of like Elizabeth Moss in The Handmaid's Tale, still a Scientologist, doesn't seem to connect the dots as far as we know? Or does Rebecca Minkoff have one foot out the door? I don't know. I am 100% just speculating here, but I don't know. I kind of would love it if she had one foot out the door. I just don't know. But having on a guest like that, that shares a cult experience, that she moved beyond and created this great brand and company, it's a great story. But I don't know. I don't know. You guys tell me, especially if you got that video about Rebecca Minkoff. Do you think she has one foot out the door, or she's just not connecting the dots when she hears a cult story like Lori Harder's cult story? Tell me in the live chat, catching on the replay. Tell me in the comments. I would appreciate it. Now, that is not even the truth bomb that Jenna MISCAVIGE drops about her connection. And you know what? I'm not telling you what it is. Go watch the video. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh. I'll tell you this, it's part of a story that you may have heard before, but the person involved in this little altercation was not identified, or at least I didn't realize this is who it was. So link down below to that video, or go to my channel, click on live, scroll down, find the one with Jenna and check it out. I just love doing videos with her because she has just amazing insight and some really great stories. And speaking of, Jenna did another video. We're going to look at a clip on her channel where she talked about, I think you might find this as fascinating as I do. When you grew up, many of you who did not grow up in Scientology, which, let's be honest, is most of you, can relate because you had similar abusive, maybe incidents and things in your past. And this video that Jenna did about love hurts, she calls it, and how love is pain is such a thing in Scientology, cults, high control groups, and maybe something you went through, you might be able to relate to this. Give this a listen.
It basically was saying that if, as a child, just say, for example, your father beats you physically, but then he tells you, I'm beating you because I love you. And you sort of get this idea that love has to be painful. And if it's not love. And at first, when I heard that, I was like, okay, nobody was actively physically abusing me every day. But then I started to realize some of the parallels with this sort of statement and Scientology. So just for example, I was told frequently, all of the kids at the ranch and kids who grew up in Scientology, that, you have to live away from your parents at a boarding school because your parents need to save the planet.
Yep, your parents need to save the planet. I'm so glad she's tackling this topic. And I know it's something that I would like to hear more about, because that's so true. When you're told as a child, well, I'm clearing the planet, I'm like, I'm not going to see you, my child, because I'm on post in the Sea Organization, or even as a Scientologist, I'm going to spend my weekends going to Scientology and doing Scientology training, not going to your soccer games, not even taking you to those things as a child. Because why? Because I'm saving the planet. This is so much more important, because I love you, my child. I'm going to show that love by directing it all at Scientology, who's going to create a better place for you to live. I mean, you can kind of see how someone in that Scientology mindset would get there and truly believe this, that they're doing this for their children. I know this because this was the experience I had with my mom, and what I came to learn growing up, and especially later after I left Scientology. She did, by having us in Scientology and encouraging us and pushing us to continue, was doing what she thought really was the best thing for us as her children who she loved. Now, of course, all of that changed when she left Scientology, and we had many conversations about it before she passed away 2 years later. But I think it's interesting, and you see this often too with children who grow up in abusive households where it's well, I hit you because I love you. I hurt you because I love you and I want you to be better. But there's this that love equals pain. That, well, if it's not painful, how is it then love? But can you see how many people, whether it's growing up in Scientology or another high control group or growing up in an abusive family, how you might not recognize actual love when you see it, or it might feel weird or uncomfortable. I had that experience with my Tony. A lot of the ways that he loved me made me uncomfortable because I didn't recognize pure love for love, no strings attached. Just, I'm going to love you as you are right now. That is not something that people in Scientology tend to experience. It was not my experience. And it was not the experience of many of us who grew up in Scientology. So I think it's a really interesting topic. Go over to her channel, check out the whole video, jump in about it. It's heartbreaking, but I think it's an important conversation to have. Maria says, hi from Greece. Hey. Again, I know truth hurts, but when you can handle it, not beating physically or mentally. Yeah, I get it. Let's see. Why would someone have children if they never plan to raise their children because they're saving the planet? That's a great question. Everybody's situation is different. People's experience in Scientology is different. I mean, I left the Sea Organization to have a child and put up with a lot to be able to do that. In fact, Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology just interviewed that child, my oldest Shelby. We're going to look at a clip in a little bit. But go ahead and just take a look at that because I think it's just such a great video talking about that. And I want to get to a couple comments about that Rebecca Minkoff other conversation we were at. I don't want to miss these. Me and Taz, there's dots and a couple brain cells not connected. That could be why sometimes you can have a situation where an actress like Elizabeth Moss can do a show like The Handmaid's Tale and not go high control, Scientology, the abuse, all of the things and not connected. I feel like how ironic. How can she not connect the dots? I know that is my question, honestly, for all of you, because I'm trying to understand it too. I'm trying to wrap my hand around it. How ironic, right? Totally. Old Fritz, you make a good point. Rich celebs Scientology experience is a million miles away from the Sea Org. Very, very, very true. You're right about that. Me and Taz says, I love the conversation Shelby had with Aaron the other day. We're going to talk about it. Neuropsych, abuse is more than physical. It's emotional too. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now let's see. Let's go over to, there's a channel here on YouTube called Cult, like cult in parenthesis, Culture Shock. And Jenni from Cult and Aethiest was on her channel and they were talking about Narconon and those lies. And I'm going to show you a clip from it. But when you get a chance, go check this out. Jenni did such a great job on here.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a controversial religion decides to tackle drug addiction? You're about to find out. Buckle up because we are going to dive headfirst into the bizarre world of Narconon, Scientology's own program for drug and alcohol rehab. Joining me is Jenni, an ex-Scientologist, and she's seen it all. We're talking all things Narconon, from sauna sessions that make a finished spa look tame, vitamin doses so high you're practically a human glow stick, and psychological drills that are far from your typical therapy session. But here's the kicker. Narconon isn't just weird, it's deadly. We're unpacking some serious things about what's really going on behind Narconon's dangerous doors. Should we talk about Narconon?
Yes, let's do it.
Have you
I love that. Go check out the video to get all the skinny in there and the truth bombs that Jenni dropped as well. She's somebody who is an ex-Sea Org member. And again, her channel is Cult and Aethiest. And she went on Culture Shock to do that interview. Link down below. Make sure that you check it out. Ms. Jane or Janie says, I just don't understand how they are saving the planet. Well, they're not saving the planet, but in Scientology and especially the Sea Organization, we are convinced and indoctrinated to believe that we're saving the planet. It's something we're told from childhood. Our parents are saving the planet. We're going to one day grow up and be able to help save the planet, but they don't wait till we grow up. You get to do it as kids by basically not getting in the way of your parents. Don't get in the way of your parents so they can save Scientology. And that's why in that mindset, it's okay to not see your family or not see your kids, because you're so busy saving the planet. But they're not. It's mental gymnastics that will never completely make sense because this is a cult. But that is an excellent question. And I wish that's something that more Scientologists would stop and ponder. But that is the thing about Scientology. You don't have the time and the space to just be and just ponder, think, wonder, question. It's mind control. And mind control doesn't always mean somebody is standing there over you saying, hey, don't do that. A lot of it, so much of it is in here. You're in a mental, like jail in a way. I'm sure you guys, a lot of you who follow my channel and others are kind of familiar with that, but it doesn't make sense because it shouldn't make sense because it's a cult. Okay, let's go over to growing up in Scientology, where Aaron had the lawyer for Scientology Audit Streets, LA, who recently won his case against that BS temporary restraining order that was trying to be gotten, elderly restraining order, right, against that one guy. Let's see, she had a few things to say about what an anti-SLAPP is, and as well as a common thread in these Scientology cases. But first, let's listen to what she says about an anti-SLAPP, because we hear that term thrown around a lot, and I figure I wasn't the only one who wasn't really familiar with it.
The anti-SLAPP, and I'm going to explain for your viewers what that means. SLAPP is an acronym for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. So if someone has filed a lawsuit against you, any kind of lawsuit, anything, it doesn't have to be a restraining order, and it is for the purpose of stopping your public participation, your First Amendment rights are implicated, it is possible that it could qualify for an anti-SLAPP motion. It's a very specific statute. Not every case is going to qualify for it, even if it does stem from someone's First Amendment activity. So we don't always do that. But in this Eckers v. Good case, as soon as I saw the temporary restraining order, it smacked of a strategic lawsuit against public participation.
Yep, she did an amazing job. Yes, Lisa, that lawyer is amazing. That's who I want fighting for me if I ever need it. No kidding. Well, take a look what she says about some of the commonalities with these temporary restraining order cases that Scientology has been throwing at people who are outside live streaming or protesting Scientology.
But what I'm noticing about all these Scientology related cases, the three that we're discussing today, they're all done without notice at the time of the temporary restraining order. And that's a key thing, because I think it's probably known at this court, at this point, that Mr. Good has counsel who can be called on a moment's notice and will show up in court at that temporary restraining order. We'll file papers. Usually we don't actually get heard, but we can file papers to oppose it. And they probably would lose right then and there. And that's why they don't notice him. That is the only reason why.
So it would seem to me. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't interrupt. It does it sound like
I have more for you. Let me give you more.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The reason I think Mr. Eckers filed that alone is so he would look like he was this individual this older person that, didn't have. But what I'm noticing about all these Scientology related.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting? There's so much that's just fascinating. And I love that he did that interview because she was really able to shed light on a lot of these things. And Corn Freak, Scott is kicking Moxon's butt too. That's right. God, I wish there could be a camera in the courtroom for that one. I really do. Interesting though. Lots of great information. I'm glad that she's being able to share these things. And you know what? If you guys have any questions you'd like to answer, ask her. I know in my head, I had some questions that were related to a few other things. I'd love to chat with her. Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask for follow-up, because I might go ahead and set that up and see if we can do that. That would be fabulous. Okay, let's talk about my daughter. Shelby. Shelby is my oldest. Shelby was my Sea Org baby. Shelby was my ticket out of the, not the Sea Org, out of the Sea Org base. I still was a Sea Org member, but as punishment for refusing to end my pregnancy, my husband at the time and I were sent to Seattle to go work for Scientology there. And it's one thing for me to share my story or even talk about with, my kids and what happened. I love it that Shelby is sharing her own story. Shelby came on my channel early on and we did a couple of videos. If you go on my channel, you go to live and you scroll way back to probably December, January, maybe it was January. I did a couple of videos with Shelby where she shared her story. And I love this because I'm her mother. So someone else interviewing her, I think, is so much better because there are other questions and perspective that can come up that as her mom too, knowing so much of the story, sometimes I realize when I look back at my interview with her, I'm like, oh, I should have asked. I think Natalie is the interviewer, not as her mom. Oh, I should have actually asked this and this. But because I already knew those things in my head, I didn't. I love this. Shelby loved during the interview. If you want to know what it's, there's so many things that Shelby went through from going into the Sea Org to not just being there for a couple of weeks. Then I had to go get her and rip her out of there because they weren't letting her go. And then her situation at Flag in Clearwater. She shares that whole story, what it was like being an outer org trainee from the Twin Cities training at Flag and what really went on behind those doors, what they were being told when people would be out there protesting. It is eye-opening. Shelby is a wealth of knowledge. If you guys didn't catch it, you got to go check it out. Let's take a look at a little clip from that video where I believe she's talking about her experience when she went to the Sea Org boot camp at 14. Now, I'll set it up a little bit here. I've shared on my channel that when my daughter Shelby was 14, she was recruited for the Sea Org. This is something that I did not want to have happen. Her recruiter was a woman named Brittany Garrett. Any of my ex-Sea Org friends, y'all remember Brittany Garrett at any time in the Sea Org? Her dad was Jim Garrett. And I think for a while there was a time when Jim Garrett ran the whole boot camp for Sea Org members. So Brittany Garrett comes to the Twin Cities, recruits Shelby. And of course, as her mom, I'm mortified having been a teenager in the Sea Org, right? An adult in the Sea Org. But I also know that as a Scientologist, I could be declared for getting in the way of this. And I've got 3 generations of my family in it. So I figured I knew my daughter really well. And I knew that she would not like it, despite what she was being told about going into the Sea Org and doing the boot camp and all of that. I knew she would not like it. So what I did, in fact, I'm going to share this with our friends at the Office of Special Affairs because it could be a little, I think it could be a little educational. So let's have their dear leader welcome. Office of Special Affairs, wake up, please. Paging you. Big mess on aisle 1. Because Shelby Lafreniere, who's my daughter, is talking and she's sharing her story and she's spilling all the beans in the dirt, like many of us have. But here's the deal. When you have kids in the Sea Org, she was a kid in the Sea Org. This was oh my gosh, what was the date? 2014, 2015 even? Wait, if Shelby was 14 and it was when she was going to be going into school, 2014, 2015, regardless, my daughter was 14 years old, a child. So I let her go, Office of Special Affairs, because I knew she'd hate it and she would turn around and come right back. And I had a conversation with that recruiter, Brittany Garrett. And yeah, I'm a little pissed off about this still. I had a conversation with her and I said, okay, what if Shelby doesn't like it? Oh, she just does the routing form to leave. Of course, I go, hey, Brittany, I was in the Sea Org. It's like that routing form is, come on. And she's like, oh, things have changed. Things have changed. They didn't change. They did not change, which I didn't find out till I let her go. So they were like, oh, she's going to be in school. She was not in school, Office of Special Affairs. And the 4 hours a week of school is a joke that you had kids doing at that time. And again, this was 2014, 2015. She wasn't the only teenager, kid, child on the estate project force. She was not. There were others. She gets there. She doesn't like it. Well, I guess we don't need you anymore. She doesn't like it. She has to leave. She's not allowed to leave. Ben Monahan, also known as nemesis to Aaron Smith-Levin. I know he really cannot stand him for good reason. Ben Monahan is the head of the estate's project force at this time. I find out from Shelby one week in, she wants to leave. They're not putting her on the routing form like Brittany Garrett, Office of Special Affairs, your recruiter, said she would be. So I get Ben Monahan on the phone, which took some doing. I get him on the phone. I'm like, hey, Shelby wants to leave. We need to put her on the leaving routing form. She needs to be in school, all of these things. And of course, he loses it on me and tells me I have no rights. She's a Sea Org member. I'm a Sea Org member. And this is when he says the Sea Org is above the law, basically is what he says. The Sea Org is above the law. So forget that she's my daughter, all of that. So I'm like, I will see you tomorrow. And I got on a flight and I went to LA, and they hid Shelby from me. They kept her from me for, I feel like I was there almost a week before I could even see her. And it was supervised. And they told me she was on the routing form to leave. But here, from Shelby's perspective, you're now going to hear what was actually happening at that time.
I was trying to leave. I remember he would like get in my face. Like I would be like sitting, either standing or sitting, but he was much bigger than me. And I remember he would like get in my face and he would like yell at me about how I'm being out ethics and like I signed a billion-year contract and like I'm letting out.
I need to correct the record here. It was 2004. I'm like, wait a minute. In 2014, how old was I? How old was Shelby? Yeah, it would have been 2004. A little brain fart on my part. Okay, let's get back to this.
L. Ron Hubbard down and like, what overts did I commit? Things like that. And like, I'm 14 years old and this is like a grown ass man, like right in my face. And I don't remember, like, I'm sure I cried. Like, I'm sure I was upset by it. And then he would like leave me alone in the room for like hours, or like basically instead of going on course, I would have to go to the ethics office. And I remember there being like days and maybe even weeks. I think it ultimately was weeks of me just like not knowing I was trying to leave.
So what Shelby didn't know, and you got to go watch the video, she tells the whole story, is that I was there and they weren't letting me see her. And I did find her. And in fact, when I found out she wasn't on that routing form, I tracked her down by talking to Sea Org members who knew me, because I was still in good standing with the church then, right? I was a Scientology public. I was an operating Satan. I'd done some of the upper levels of the bridge to total freedom. So I was trusted. So I'd be like, hey, what are the EPF, Estates Project Force, Sea Org Boot Camp? How are the projects? What are they working on? And they told me. I narrowed down where she was. I headed over to the building. I marched in and I dragged her out of there. And I took her back to the base. And I'm like, we're leaving. This is not okay. She's not being let out. And it kind of got the ball rolling, and it still took time because I had to do it in a way that I was still trying not to get myself declared a suppressive person. I wasn't ready to blow up my life just then. It would be another 4 years. And then I would make the decision finally to leave Scientology. But this whole thing was part of it. Shelby also talks about her time at Flag training, and that is so insightful because she drops some secrets about what is really being done with the trainees at Flag. Think about like Aaron Cairo, who runs Scientology San Francisco, and Braille Skateboarding was there for 3 years. These are the things that he was probably experiencing as well. So check it out. It's on Growing Up in Scientology. Check out that interview and would love to hear your guys' thoughts about it as well. Now let's go over to Oh No Nora. Oh No Nora interviewed Perth Scientology Audit. Now we are in August. There is a protest being planned in Melbourne, Australia. Details to come. I don't think there's been a date announced. If there has, somebody can go ahead and correct me on that. But it is upcoming. I think they're just not being super public about the date yet because, Scientology and their Office of Special Affairs, which, by the way, Office of Special Affairs, you may go back into your slumber and relax because I know you're probably overworked, underpaid, tired, you don't got enough people, all the things. So resty. I will wake you up again when we need you. So let's take a look at this clip from Oh No Nora in her interview with Perth Scientology Audit.
I told him all about Serge's story, and he was saying, well, how do you know it's the truth? And I'm like, mate, and he's going, well, our stable datum and all of this is that what's true for you is true for you. And I was like, it's just a cop out, isn't it? You know, like, what does that even mean? Oh, because it's not true for me, because it's not in my reality, it didn't happen. Like, are you serious? I don't know.
That's basically how they keep themselves, sane, right? So if it's not true for you, if you didn't see it, then it's not true.
Let's talk about this for just a hot minute here. There is a datum, a belief in Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard says, what's true for you is true for you. So basically, it's like, okay, well, if this isn't true for you, then it's just not true. This is how that becomes faulty when you're in a cult like Scientology. Because if somebody comes to you and goes, hey, Natalie, my brother-in-law's daughter went into the Sea Org as a teenager and all these things happened, and they tried to coerce her into, when she got married at 17, into ending her pregnancy, even though they wanted to keep the baby, whatever it is that happened, that, well, if I don't believe it, if it's not real to me and I didn't see it, then it must not be true. I can decide as a Scientologist, well, that's not true for me. So that's how a lot of these, when Scientologists hear these abuses and there's this cognitive dissonance, that they work through it. Because they remember, oh, wait, what's true for me is true for me. And it's not true for me that David Miscavige beats his staff. So it's just not real. I'm just going to keep going about my business. You see how that works? It's really insidious. And that's why a lot of times too, I like to say, I share my experience when I'm sharing my experience, right? My firsthand experience, but my experience might not be somebody else's experience and their experience might not be mine. It doesn't mean that because it happened to me, but it didn't happen to this person, that what happened to me didn't happen. And vice versa, same thing. If it happened to them and not me, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just wasn't my experience. And there's a big difference between saying that never happened because it's not real for you, it's not true for you, and it actually having not happened. I guess it's kind of like that whole, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody sees it, did it happen? I mean, yeah, could be. But Scientology uses that as a way for the mental gymnastics of the cult members to somehow kind of work out. Yep, Parker, you hit the nail on the head. Scientology is evil. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, let's see. Let's go to, let's talk about Relatable Reese is celebrating 1 year here on YouTube. Check it out.
So I just want to say, we should go back and watch the first video, but so many of you have just been here with me since the very beginning. And even the people who haven't, I don't care. Sarah Browett, I love Sarah Browett. Jenny Stout, all the things we've been wishing for you are coming true. Through your own courage and hard work and a tidal wave of our love for you. Congrats on your first year.
Yes, congrats, Relatable Reese, on 1 year on YouTube. I think it's amazing that she was so recent out of Scientology and has been on YouTube sharing her story, finding her way. So congrats on 1 year, Reese. We're proud of you. Keep going. Now, Declare Dave Loves Suppressive Sherry, that channel here on YouTube. Dave, once again, you triggered me. I was so triggered, but in good ways, because then we can talk about it. But we're going to take a look at this video. We're going to look at a clip. Declare Dave Loves Suppressive Sherry. Declare Dave was covering the code of a Sea Org member. I did not expect it to be that triggering, but it was. I had like all the feels. I did. I was like, ah! Which, meant that I felt like, hey, now's a good time. Let's look at it. Let's listen. So let's take a look at this and we are going to chat about it.
Number 4, I promise to do my part to achieve the Sea Org's humanitarian objective, which is to make a safe environment where the 4th dynamic engram can be audited out. And what they're saying here is, what Hubbard is saying here is, there is this giant engram, and an engram is a moment of pain and unconsciousness that causes aberration. And what he's saying here is there's this giant aberration on mankind. And only through the Sea Org can we audit out that engram, the same way you would audit out an individual's engram, according to Scientology.
Now, when it comes to Scientology, the fourth dynamic is mankind. In Scientology, it's broken down. Your life is broken down into 8 dynamics. First dynamic being yourself, the second, family, sex, third, groups, fourth, mankind, 5, plants, animals, and it goes on through 8 of them. The fourth dynamic being mankind. When Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard talks about this fourth dynamic engram, this massive moment of pain and unconsciousness, you know what he's talking about, right? Xenu. That is a mankind engram when the galactic overlord, Xenu, went and froze a bunch of people / aliens from other planets, threw them volcanoes, blew them up, caught them on this electronic ribbon, and then implanted them with all these ideas about you need to get married and have a white picket fence and children and religion and all these things. That's what L. Ron Hubbard said happened. These then alien thetans attached themselves to humans, to I guess whatever humans were there, and here we are today, and they're to blame for all of our problems. It is the Sea organization that is holding space and making it possible for the upper levels on the bridge to total freedom to make these upper levels possible. They are. So that people can audit out their body thetans. That's the fourth dynamic engram. And people in the Sea Org who see that, right? Who they go, okay, right? I promise to do my part to achieve the Sea Org's humanitarian objective, which is to make a safe environment where the fourth dynamic engram can be audited out. Spoiler alert. That is the one. And when I remember going through that training as a Sea Org member and reading this and not even thinking like, well, I guess, it never really was that specific. But here's the other one on here too. Let's take a look at that really got me. Was number 5. I promise to uphold the fact that duty is the Sea Org member's true motivation, which is the highest motivation there is. This, my friends, is why many of us who are ex-Sea Org members have pretty good work ethics, because it's all about duty. What did you commit to? Getting it done no matter what, overcoming all the obstacles. And at face value, you might be like, well, Natalie, that sounds like that could be a good quality. Well, no. Not when you do it despite so many reasons not to. You're not evaluating the information. You're not the Sea Org being told, hey, tell you guys what, you're going to go to this org in New Mexico and you're going to do an event and you're going to get all these people to pay all this money and you're going to recruit 2 people for the Sea Org. That is your mission. That is your duty. You don't question like, well, wait a minute, but people don't want to join the Sea Org. They don't, because it's boring and you can't have sex or drink or do any of those things. No, you cannot say that. You have to execute and do your duty no matter what. I wasn't going to look at too many of these, but while we're at it, let's do it. Let's just look at a couple. I promise to improve my worth to the Sea Org and mankind by regularly advancing my knowledge of and ability to apply the truths and technologies of Dianetics and Scientology. Oh my God, I literally am about to throw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm telling you, this is seriously triggering, which is why I'm going to keep going. I promise to accept and fulfill to the utmost of my abilities the responsibilities entrusted to me whenever they may be and wherever they may carry me in the line of duty. In other words, if we tell you in the Sea Org, if we tell you, you need to go across the country, even though your spouse is here, we're going to separate you for maybe years because we don't care about that relationship. That is your duty. So in the Sea Org, it's all about duty. Duty comes first. The mission comes first. You, your family, your spouse, anything else is like way down on the list, if at all, because you never quite get to it. Very interesting. Go check out that video, link down below so you can see the whole thing. I found it, like I said, it was triggering, but it should be. It needs to be. This Scientology and the truth about Scientology and all of these secrets of Scientology that are coming out, they should disturb you because they are disturbing. But we still need to talk about it and raise awareness. And I hope here on my channel to bring some understanding to the mindset of a Scientologist and Scientology, because it's hard to understand crazy at the end of the day, but I do hope to kind of bridge that gap. Matt says LRH lays out all this BS about all this research, blah, blah, that makes him the ultimate knower of mankind. Correct. That is correct. It's all part of the scam. Speaking of scams, let's go to San Francisco and let's take a look at a clip from Club Brain Fog. San Francisco, who is the head of Scientology in San Francisco? Aaron Cairo, the same head of Braille skateboarding. Also the head of Scientology in San Francisco. Well, Club Brain Fog came upon an interesting situation, I guess you might call it, but let's let her explain.
It's got 2 different license plates on it. How in the hell do you report that? That is really weird. So it was the same car. It's got 2 different license plates. The front one starts with a 5 and the back one starts with an 8. How do you do that?
How do you do that? I honestly don't know. And I did a really quick Google search, not a deep dive. So if somebody else can tell me, can you have 2 different license plates on a vehicle in California? As far as I know, you cannot. Why would you want to? Mostly, I kind of need that explained to me. Tell me in the chat if you're catching this on the replay. Jump in those comments. One on the front, one on the back. And they're different. It just doesn't make sense. Neuropsych says Cairo must have hit his head really hard. There's something going on. I would agree with that. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get that. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm glad that she found it out and is sharing that little secret. Why would you need or want 2 different license plates? And if I do find this out and there is a legitimate reason, then we will discuss that. But I could not find one. Okay, you guys are saying, no, it's legal. I'm in California. You cannot. Amy Lee says, absolutely not. No way. That's illegal. Hey, Diane, more fun than sitting at home? Nope. Well, Diane, I believe it because she is the source of some great information. And they're in California. Weird, right? Weird. I don't think it's different in San Francisco. It's just weird. Why? I don't know. It's just something that it's kind of like another data point of this whole Aaron Cairo Braille skateboarding saga. Something we'll just file away. 2 license plates. We don't know why. Maybe there will be more to come on that. Let's go over to Los Angeles now and Hollywood to Scientology Audit Streets, LA, who caught some Scientology. Scientology is so ridiculous, you guys. Oh my gosh. So he comes upon the scene. Well, you know what? Let's take a look at the video and I'll have him explain it. And then we're going to get into some other stuff that he talks about. So he's sharing a video of what happened when he first came on the scene.
So they're here high behind him. You can see that one person's body right there.
Hey guys, hi. Hi, where you guys going?
And remember, everybody over here, show that like button and that subscribe button some aloha.
I just came to say hi. What do you guys have? I said hi. You act like I'm a suppressive person or something. I just said hi. You guys are so rude.
So that's where we're at. So they have the bus running back here. You can hear the bus, but I don't hear the bus anymore. The bus running back here. You can hear the bus, but I don't hear the bus anymore. The gas must be cut off. You guys are all just sitting on a bus. I hope there's AC on it. I don't care. I'll sit here. I'll sit here. You guys work 16 hours today. I didn't. You guys work 16 hours a day, 16-hour day today, and you're going to spend another 2 hours on the bus while
I love that. You guys work 16 hours a day. I didn't. I got all day. I can be here all day. I can do this all day. And it felt like he did, because not only did he remain there, but then he started to read material by L. Ron Hubbard, specifically something out of Operating Thetan Level 2, which is right before the whole Xenu thing. And it's a lot of stuff that's not going to make sense. I'm going to do my best to explain a little bit about it. But as an ex-Scientologist, hearing someone never in Scientology read this really slams it home in my head. Not that I didn't already know this, but it reinforces what BS it is in Scientology, especially on the upper levels. So let's take a look at this, and then we're gonna discuss a couple of these things.
there it says Psycho 9 p.m. This is L. Ron's own writings.
Now it actually says psycho GPM, which is goals, problem, mass. Now my ex-Scientology friends, feel free to jump into the chat here or even the comments and help people understand this insanity, which I don't even totally understand.
To die is to live is to die, to surrender is to victimize is to surrender.
See how they're like these opposites, because as I recall in Scientology, a goal, problem, mass is when you have a goal and then there's like this counter goal and then it creates this problem and there's all this mass, which is like this negative energy. So goal, counter goal, problem, right? You know, to love, to hate, all these things. So I forget how this is used in Scientology if you go through this list in Scientology auditing, but when you listen to it, it makes your brain melt. I think it actually melts your brain. Like I feel Will might need to see a neurologist because it is brain melting when you see it. And I love that he was making fun of it. And I love that he was reading it off to, if nothing else, maybe the security could hear him behind the fence, because the Sea Org members were trapped on the bus because they were just going to stay there. They weren't going to come out. Because why? Because Scientology Audit Streets, LA, William Good dared to have a camera. He had a camera with him. What's up with that? They are really afraid of that. So great video there. Go ahead and check that out. Link down below. And now let's also take a look at let's see, this is William Good talking about what happened with Scotty's court case and some of the things that came out in court. Let's take a look at this.
What the highlight was getting him to say.
Yeah, so the highlight, so they had Jaden on the stand, the Scientology security guard. That's the guy who, if you look at my posted a video in the last couple of days, and I saw him in front of the info center, and he saw me turn around and walk back in. That's him. DOA asked him, because he said he is an employee. So DOA asked him, "Are you a licensed security guard?" And he says, "No, he's not a licensed security guard. He's a public safety, I don't know, some bullshit, which basically means
Safety security officer."
Yeah. And he says that part of his job is to clean rocks.
Yes, to clean rocks, to make sure people get into the events.
Yeah, clean rocks. Scientology security, Sea Org member, making $50 a week, 47 or so. Cleaning rocks and making sure people get to events.
And to make sure there's no vandalism around the property.
So he's not a real security guard, guys. He's not, because he's not licensed, and so he can't claim it. But he says it's his job. When he's there, he's at work. And I think that was interesting. So Scott asked him, "Okay, this is your job. How much are you paid?" And he was very uncomfortable answering that question. And he said about $50. And Scott said, "A week?" He says, "Yeah, per week." Yeah. But he got defensive. He's like, "But there's also other, we get food and housing." He gets his rice and beans in his bunk bed. Yes.
It's rice and beans in his bunk bed. I love it when William says that. I've heard him say it a few times, but it's true. It's true. Not all the time. You're not always on rice and beans. And if you're married, you're not in a bunk bed. At least I was not aware of anyone married and still in a bunk bed, but most people are in a bunk bed and they're 3 or 4 high. And they are as a form of punishment and control when they don't behave as the cult would like you to. You have to eat rice and beans in the dining room instead of regular food. I remember this. I was a steward in the galley. I worked in the dining room as a teenager, and there would be certain people and groups of people that would come in, and we always had to have rice and beans off to the side. And here's the sick thing too. They weren't allowed to add salt, pepper, hot sauce, none of those things. They were supposed to not be allowed to have it. I would always kind of turn a blind eye if they were doing it, because I'm like, I am not the food police here. I'm just putting the food out and kind of making sure things are being refilled. So he's right about that. Totally right about that. And the bunk beds are ridiculous. So this is a guy who is this faux security for Scientology and the Sea Org, making less than $50 a week take home. And this is the situation. This is the reality. Frankly, I'm amazed like they let the guy in court. But yeah, if you like clean rocks, I'd rather paint them with fluffer. That is exactly what I was thinking too. Clean rocks, they should be painting them, and maybe they could put some, I don't know, some messages on there that are inspirational, like Scientology's a cult. David Miscavige beats his staff. Stuff like that, and leave them laying around Big Blue. I guess that would have to be a big rock, actually. Maybe you could put a smaller message on it. You know what? I'm going to practice. I've got some rocks. I'm going to see if I can write that small and just see. I don't know. Mike Sandoval, more like kick rocks. Exactly. Okay, let's take a look now, because William Good, Scientology Audit Streets LA, and Jessica Palmadessa, as they were out, caught one of the Scientology windowless buses, mind you, trying to get into Scientology's compound. And for whatever reason, they weren't being let in. And then she had to back out, and it was a whole thing.
Hi. 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 You know, you're gonna hit somebody. You're backing up. You almost hit them. Hi. Watch out, pedestrians coming. Come on, there's suppressive people here. Don't. Watch out. There you go. You can do it. Come on, don't. No. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Suppressive. Where's suppressive people? They didn't open the gate for you. They aborted it. They aborted the mission. Oh, you almost hit him. Hurry up. Oh.
So in Scientology, that would be called bull baiting, where you're basically, right, kind of teasing somebody, going at them, and to see if you could keep your training TRs in. Can you keep those training routines in, your TRs? Keeping your TRs in is a phrase you hear all the time in Scientology, and you get in trouble for having what's called out TRs, meaning you cracked. You cracked. I thought this was really funny, though. The whole interaction just cracked me up, and I love I love it when Jessica Palmadessa and Streets LA get together and go out there and do things and have fun. And Jessica has the most amazing sense of humor. I just love watching them. You know who else I love watching? Dan Walks LA. And Dan Walks LA was outside the Halloween. Listen to me. It's not even close to Halloween yet. Although I am thinking about my costume, but I'm not telling you just yet. Anyways, Dan Walks LA was outside the Hollywood Testing Center, which has been pretty much shut down for months now, thanks to these live streaming and protests. Well, he had his own little protest going out there, and we're going to take a look at this.
Oh, this is what I needed. This is so what I needed. I've been kind of going stir crazy. I'm like, I gotta get back out there. I gotta go do something. But it's been too hot to stand on an overpass. And just haven't been inspired to.
I mean, look at that. He's got the sign there that says Scientology disconnects families and people's lives. And he's handing out these little SPTV. It looks like little bracelets and things. And he's got some information, and tons of people were going by, and he was handing it out. There were people even taking pictures with the sign, as he pointed out that's Scientology there. Scientology is a cult. And here they are right there in Hollywood. He was given lots of props, like by that couple there. Lots of love out there. Dan Walks LA in front of there. And of course, it's not Hollywood. It's not Hollywood. Unless something weird happens. So, of course, something odd and unusual did happen. And I want to ask you guys, we are going to play a round of a new game I like to call, is this a random person or a Scientology plant? So you guys, take a look at this. You tell me in the chat, plant or random? Plant or random? Based on the behavior of this guy, I think it's a tough call, which is why I want to know what you think. Take a look.
I'm wondering if he might be.
He walked up earlier, said a few words with Dan, and then asked, and then went and he laid down in front of the doorway there, which you're actually not supposed to block the doorway. So let's watch.
Dare I say a plant?
She pay attention now. Yeah, I know she does.
I don't know what the hell's happening right now.
So he's laying there, seems to be having some type of a conversation. Couldn't completely hear him. I can't tell, like, is he on the phone? But security does come, and it's not Scientology security. Oh, no, he's not on the phone. These guys, right? Safety team. They seem to be, I think they're kind of like the first line of defense, you might call them, in Hollywood when something goes astray and goes wrong and goes weird. And here's this guy, and he is blocking the walkway. You're not supposed to do that. If we have learned nothing from William Gooden protesting, you don't block the doorway. And there he is. So he does end up, I mean, he just throws his backpack right there. He does end up going about his business and leaving. But what do you guys think? Plant or random? Plant or random? If you were on the replay, jump in those comments and tell me, plant or random. Looks like there's a little bit of a mix here, but more people, I think, oh, I don't know, might be split. I see a lot of plant, but I also see some randoms. It's kind of hard to tell. So let's see how that plays out. At the end of this stream, I'm going to go back and read the comments and take a look and do an official count. And we'll really see what you guys think. Although Matt says his name is Robert Plant. Ooh, I don't know. You guys are so split. Random, Randy Plant. I don't know. But then plant, random. REM Art says, if Scientology isn't kicking him out, I would say plant. One, these. Oh, okay. More fun than sitting at home. Now, Diane, her opinion holds more weight with me because she's my favorite Scientology spy when they didn't know she was sending us their emails. Total plant. There were several. Interesting. I should ask Dan too. Oh my God, you guys are like 50-50. Plant, random. Hard to tell in Hollywood, right? Plant, random. Okay, keep going on that and let me know what you think. In the meantime, we're going over there to those blue buildings because Confident Chris, oh my gosh, all kinds of things were going on. I missed one day and all hell breaks loose. Apparently someone threw rocks at Confident Chris. We're going to take a look at that. And Confident Chris unlocked new characters. We saw new Sea Org members that we have not seen working and doing their thing. It's like watching that Mutual of Omaha, Animals in the Wild almost, when you see Sea Org members working. And even I was there in there as a Sea Org member working. But when I go back and I look at these videos, I'm like, oh, look, oh my God, you can see them. You can actually see them and what they're doing. What are they doing? And I was there. So hopefully I'm not the only one that geeks out about this stuff and you enjoy watching it and seeing it as well. So this, Chris is seeing through a fence, I believe. But look at this, Sea Org members doing their thing. Hell no. Maybe some people recognize them. If you do, go ahead and put in the comments or in the live chat.
Oh yeah. We get new characters. Hell no, all the action today. Hell no.
I was surprised to see this younger girl here.
What are we doing over here?
You know, with a blue vest.
Here. Look at all the lamps. We're at the gate. We're going to have another breach area. Hell no. We got them freaking.
Interesting too. His camera can really zoom, but you see a couple of them. And I'm also wondering, like, what's in those shipping containers that are right out there? But isn't it interesting? It feels so, I don't know what the word is. Like they don't know we're watching them. Voyeuristic, maybe, might be the word. Ooh, looks like he made a little joke. I don't know what's happening here. Anyways, interesting nonetheless. I thought it was really interesting to see that and to watch. Me and Taz, Natalie, do you know how to do polls during your live? Oh, I can do that? No, I don't. Can I do it in StreamYard or do I have to do it in the YouTube? I will look into that. Nancy, don't let me forget. I need to figure that out. It's Mike Sandoval. When cults attack. Now, there was no attack at that moment, but, and this is a big but, my friends. Oh my God, I am such a dork. I crack myself up. It's ridiculous. Big but. Okay, so moving on. This rock situation. I want to know who threw rocks at Confident Chris. How dare you? How dare you?
They kind of look like a Scientology a little bit.
So he sees this guy, right? I mean, he's totally being sus right there.
Second I saw him, he started moving. You see that? Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? He was like, did you guys see how he moved? Oh, damn, he threw rocks? Oh, they threw rocks? What they on?
Then he throws rocks at him. Who does that? What is that about? Mostly, how dare you? How dare you throw rocks at Confident Chris? I love him. He feels like a son. I'm over here watching him, all this time, getting worried when he gets hurt and all this stuff. And now somebody's throwing rocks at him. It's almost more than I can stand. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, Haggis Basher's asking, is that the head gardener guy who was laying all that red plastic stuff on the grass? I don't know. Does anybody else know? Maybe that's why he was so, I don't know, upset and felt the need to throw rocks. Well, Confident Chris wasn't just going to stand for this. He investigated. He did an investigation to figure out where these rocks were coming from. He used some paleontology, I believe he called it. Let's take a look.
So these are not the same rocks as this. So by my paleontologism is saying that my sources, what I'm saying that these rocks right here, I'm saying that they might match the description of what was thrown at my individuality. And no way would you think that these are the same rocks that were thrown at me. Are y'all into shock? Are y'all into shock?
We are totally into shock, Chris, and we're not going to stand for it. We are not. Even Rika, right? Who do I need to fight for throwing rocks at my little bro, Confident Chris, right? I was ready to get on a plane. I'm like, oh, hell no. What is happening there? Sharona, I love Chris so much. Exactly. Sandy McKenna, case solved. For now. But we are all keeping a close eye on this. Now, Audit LA. That's another one. I love Audit LA. Audit LA was outside the blue buildings having a conversation with a security guard for Scientology, who I got to say seemed kind of cool. It was a nice conversation, but check this out.
Fibber and McGee. Oh, I think he's a Scientologist. I mean, oh, well, that's it. Yeah, Liontologist. Yes, if studying the practice of Liontology. Yeah, that's right. You're funny. I mean, I like sense of humor, so you get points with me for that.
I love this guy. Now, I know she's talked to him before. I must have missed it on her stream, and I did not see it. But the conversation continues, and he talks about something that Scientology says they're afraid of.
They were trying to breach the door? They got scared. They're really scared. Why are they so scared? Like, but nobody's gonna go in there or hurt them or anything. Why are they so scared? Is it because they think we're SPs? Well,
I love that too. He's like, what's SPs? He is hard to hear on her audio, but that's why I like that she's kind of repeating what he's saying at times.
Oppressive person. That's people who don't like Scientology. Mostly the people that are like left Scientology. They were in Scientology. I'm a never in. That's what we were called. But they,
he's pretty much like, I don't know anything about that nonsense. I mean, that's really the vibe. He is very much giving, I'm being paid to be here. I just don't care. Yeah, but I love that they're having a conversation. So link down below to her full video because this goes on. She just has the best conversations, you guys. If you were not following Audit LA, you're going to want to. That's right, Neuropsych. I like it. Liontology. I love how he laughs about that too. Windy City Thetan Watch, you're right. Don't think he's getting points with the cult for this. Who knows if they're seeing it? Have you seen it? I mean, we already put Office of Special Affairs back to sleep already today, but they just need to catch up. They need to catch up. Sometimes they're on the replay crew. And remember, OSA on the replay crew, hit like, and all of you out there, Scientology hates it when you do that. So just like away. Like and subscribe. Okay, now let's see what I want to talk to you about. Did that get me? Oh my gosh. I got to grab some of these questions. Let's see here. Defiance Unleashed. Do people protesting child trafficking and abuse have a responsibility to disconnect from people associating with those that protect predators? I have a video with more info. Do people protesting child trafficking and abuse have a responsibility to disconnect from people? I mean, right off the bat, I don't think anyone has a right to tell anybody who they need to disconnect from, even in that situation. Would I? Yes. I mean, it's a matter of, that's not an exact, like a lot of details there, but as soon as I see the words like somebody has to disconnect from, I don't like it, because at the end of the day, everybody has a choice. Even if they're making a choice that we don't agree with, who they want to be connected to or who they want to talk to, that's still their choice, right? If you don't like, here, let's make it easy. Let's use Davey, who I just threw away. Okay, so let's say David Miscavige is in a fight with this person here, with Compact, and they're like fighting. And he's like, Natalie, I'm fighting with Compact and I don't like them, so you shouldn't talk to them, disconnect from them. No, I'm not doing that in that situation. So I think it's a little bit more complicated, but more so, I'm like, people have to make their own decisions, and I am not the morality police to go around telling people who they should and shouldn't talk to. So that's, I guess, a little bit of a long-winded way of addressing that. Let's see. Fish Mom 2011. That is why the pandemic caused such a drop in Scientology members. Too much time to be exposed to the outside world. David Miscavige's fear of the virus worked against this cult. Fish Mom, you are so right. Oh, you guys have no idea how much I wish that I was doing YouTube during the pandemic just to talk about the crazy stuff that Scientology did during that time. I guess I can always go back, but it doesn't seem as relevant today when there's so many other things to talk about. But you're right, Fish Mom. That is a huge part of it. And I know this too, because I know people who left Scientology during that time. And guess what they said? I just had all this time then to think and just put some space between me and them, and kind of like let your thoughts become more clear on all of these things. So you're totally right about that. I agree. Penn, where do the thetans go that you rid your body of? Couldn't they attach to another person? I have wondered about this a lot, and you're referring to body thetans, that in the upper levels of Scientology, you free them. The idea and hope is that they go and they pick up a body and they join Scientology. Now, could they go and attach to another person? I guess in theory, except the idea is that they no longer need to, because you audited them. You telepathically audited them and helped them become aware enough where they don't need to go stick to another human. They can go off and get their own human body and have their own life and join Scientology. At least that's how I understand it to be. But it's all BS at the end of the day, so probably doesn't totally matter. James Still, where does Hubbard and Miscavige stand in a list of the world's worst nut jobs? You'd have to tell me that. I would think it would need to be very, very high up on there. Will's Hoodie Pocket. I love that name. Someone stole my sister's back plate and put another on from a stolen car, and she was pulled over and full on handcuffed and detained. Had no clue how that happened. Whoa. I guess that could have happened to Aaron Cairo. Somebody better tell him. Office of Special Affairs. You need to immediately go find Aaron Cairo in Scientology and be like, dude, you have 2 different license plates on. You could be pulled over and handcuffed. That would be horrible. We don't want that happening. That'd be just awful. No, seriously, it would be. I mean, that's traumatic, even though even though it's here in Cairo. I'm hoping he comes around. I am. I'm hoping he comes around. Gordon says he stole his plates. Probably not, but that is a thought. It could kind of go that way. It's Mike Sandoval. Ironic, the cult that monitors everyone doesn't like to be monitored. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one for sure. Nisa says, I thought it was funny when Will had them there all day and all night, and what William read did not make sense. It was gibberish. Yes, you are correct. It was gibberish. It was L. Ron Hubbard, straight out of L. Ron Hubbard, crazy talk. 100%. It was from the upper levels after all. And you're right. If you didn't catch the whole video, you guys, William Good was out there forever and they were just stuck behind there. I don't know if they shut the bus off. It was super hot. Did they have air conditioning? I just don't know. Mike Sandoval also asking, are marriages arranged? Not in the traditional sense. Like I'm not aware of a rule like, hey, we're going to arrange your marriage in Scientology. Now, having said that, they are encouraged. I need to think about this answer. They're not arranged in the open sense of it. Hey, Natalie, I'm going to arrange a marriage for you to marry so-and-so. I am not aware of it. That was not my experience. What was my experience, though, was being pushed and encouraged towards an individual who was very solid in Scientology at a time when I was not. And later in hindsight, I recognized, and even through conversations with my mother after we left Scientology, found out that that was part of the plan. That higher ups in Scientology and the Twin Cities org here knew I was kind of pulling away in an effort to bring me back into the fold, kind of pushed me towards a relationship with a man who went on to be my husband for several years. So arranged out in the open, no. Will they manipulate people and put them together in a situation that would be the best for Scientology? Yeah, I think that happens. I do believe that that's what happened in my situation. Let's see. Freya the dog. Is snitching on each other a requirement to get far in the cult of Scientology? Yes, it is. In Scientology, you are told that you have to write knowledge reports on your fellows, even your family members, your spouse, your partner, whatever it is. Because if they are found to have been doing something that is out ethics, not okay, violating the mores of Scientology, and you knew about it and you didn't report it, you're guilty too. So if your friend, coworker, whatever it is in Scientology or the Sea Org did something that you knew was not okay and you didn't snitch, you didn't report, you didn't get there with your carbon copy. I don't know if they still do that because you had to make more than one copy of a knowledge report. And you're supposed to give the person a copy, but that didn't always happen. And you don't snitch on them and they find out Scientology is like, we found out you knew, you're guilty. You were guilty as well. So it's heavy, heavy, heavy snitch culture and requirement. Let's see. Jess has a comment. That's an industrial vinyl printer for banners, the event banners they have in the street. Oh, are you talking about what Confident Chris was looking at? That's what that was for? Ooh, that's interesting. That is interesting. I didn't know that they printed their own banners. Scientology and the Sea Org are big on doing as much as they can for themselves in their ecosystem so they can control every aspect. That's why they feed their own people, they take care of their own grounds, they fix their own plumbing, all of these things as much as they can to maintain a tight, controlled ecosystem because it's easier to keep those secrets. If you start letting repair people in behind the scenes, they start to see things. And how do we know this? Because that happened in Scientology multiple times. Oh my gosh, especially in Clearwater. In fact, Clearwater George, Surrounded by Scientology, is his channel here on YouTube. He tells the story of back in the day. He knew someone that went to do some work in a Scientology building in Clearwater and what they saw. They walked into an apartment that had what looked like set up beds all over the floor, one after the other. And many people crowded into one space. I can't believe Scientology let that person in, but maybe they don't do that now. So, maybe they're catching on. Let's see. Philly, you make a good point about arranged marriages. It's only arranged if you're a minor and get S8. That has happened. That has happened. I know of one specific case, which is probably the one you're talking about, where the victim was made to marry the perpetrator. So in that situation, yes, it did happen. Let's see. Paraditology. What's the biggest withhold you never told to the cult of Scientology? Ooh, let's see. While I was well, I guess that's the only time it would have mattered. Probably the biggest withhold that I never told. I mean, I've since told them because, I blab all my business on the internet. And before that, I'd done around other social media platforms. I talked about it as well. But while in Scientology, the biggest secret I never told the cult was probably the fact that I was reading on the internet all about them. And I was connecting up with people like Mike Rinder and reading stories from Tori Magoo and Jeff Hawkins and all of these people, Mark Headley, Blown for Good, his book, that I was reading these stories online and not telling them because I was in my 2-year plan to leave Scientology. But during that time, I was still technically a Scientologist in good standing. I was trying to get Shelby, my daughter, who was in Clearwater, Florida, training out of there. And I had timing. I could only do that over Christmas because we had planned this trip for her to go to Mexico with her dad. And from there, we were going to get her out of Scientology. But if Scientology knew I was going to do that, they would have sent her anywhere and kept her away from me. And because my daughter Shelby was so brainwashed at that time, she probably would have gone along with it. I know she would have, because it took me more than a hot minute to kind of get her to come to her own conclusion that Scientology is a human trafficking cult. And that was helped along by helping her get proper food and sleep and surrounding her by good people and reminding her of what life can really be like, showing her what life after a cult can be. And so much of that is the inspiration for my channel here, whether it's Scientology as a cult or other cults, that there's life afterwards, that it's never too late. You can go on, you can figure out life, you can do the activities of your choosing, you can have a family, you can not have a family, whatever it is you want to do as the individual. All right, that is all that I have for you guys today. I am going to come back on today at 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to be doing an interview with Fluffer Squirrel UK and Z News about the website Scientology.space, what inspired it, what new resources are on there, and I think we're going to talk about a few other things as well. So if you can catch it live, it's 1 p.m. Central Time today. Otherwise, catch it on the replay. And before you guys head out today, if you could do me a favor, show that like button and the subscribe button a ton of aloha. I would appreciate it. And in the meantime, I hope everybody gets out today and has an amazing cult-free day.